everyone, I'm Lucinda the Linguist. Today we'll explore the challenges faced by languages around the world. Language vitality refers to the stability and use of a language within a given community. According to UNESCO, a language is endangered when its speakers cease to use it in fewer and fewer domains, use fewer of its registers and speaking styles, or stop passing it on to the next generation. More recently, however, there has been a greater push towards protecting languages, resulting in more models including UNESCO Language Endangerment Framework, developed in 2002. Language vitality is determined by 9 different factors: intergenerational language transmission, community members' attitudes to their own languages, shifts in domain of language use, governmental and institutional attitudes, and the use of language, type and quality of documentation, response to new domains and media, availability of materials for language education and literacy, proportion of speakers among the total population, and absolute number of speakers. This model recognises that there are multiple factors involved in language loss, and that one factor alone cannot completely represent a language's vitality. From this information, I've found that languages are placed into one of 6 categories: safe, vulnerable, definitely endangered, severely endangered, critically endangered, and extinct. On my journey, I found 2 examples of language endangerment at 2 different levels: Welsh and Irish. Welsh is considered vulnerable at a little more than 500,000 speakers. The Welsh community have a strong language policy which includes the implementation of numerous Welsh medium schools and increasing the status of the language in the community. Irish, however, is considered critically endangered at about 73,000 speakers. While the Irish do have a policy on maintaining the language, it seems to be less extensive than the Welsh, focusing mainly on the production publication in Irish. This ignores the need to increase community support in order to increase the number of speakers. Many languages that are categorised as endangered face similar challenges. They are at risk of being lost when speakers abandon their languages in favour of regional, national or international tongues. Endangered languages are a part of misplaced culture and intellectual diversity. However, I haven't given up on endangered languages just yet. Although language viability is difficult to achieve, a start to overcome endangerment hurdles would be to work with members of common communities to create teaching materials and literature that will endorse language growth in essential areas such as television. This further involves working with the masses, agencies, and governmental organisations for a learning, literacy, and linguistic support system. Now allow me to shift your focus onto the more successful revitalized languages, one prominent example being Hebrew. From having no native speakers in the 19th century, there are now over 8 million speakers of Hebrew worldwide, with the successful translation of the recorded written language back into natural speak or vernacularization. Hebrew is once again the national language of Israel. There were 4 monumental factors contributing to this successful revival. The ancient religious literature written in Hebrew instilled its status as a holy language. The knowledge and use of the language allows not only fuller participation in religious practices, but is now used in Jewish schools, grammar books, and in Israel specifically, newspapers and magazines. The Haskalah, or Jewish Enlightenment, occurred in the 18th and 19th century, was another major factor contributing to the revitalization of Hebrew. Hebrew was used to communicate ideals of the movement of other Jews while simultaneously increasing the population who spoke the sacred language. The third factor in the revitalization was Zionism in Central Eastern Europe in the 19th and 20th century, which involved the return to Jewish tradition. A final component of the revitalization of Hebrew was that of the Jewish immigration to Palestine in the 1880s. With a vast linguistic landscape having been established, the need for a common language resulted in Hebrew being the lingua franca of Israel. Overall, Hebrew was revitalized due to its religious, communicative, and national significance. That's all from me today. Today you've learned about language endangerment and the issues they face. You've also seen an example of a language that was dead or had no native speakers, that was brought back to life, revitalized. I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson.